Welcome book lovers to Creatives on the Couch, presented by ASJ Publishing. I'm your host, Christine Modaffri, and today we have a special treat, a different kind of storyteller, a playwright, an actor, director of photography and musician. Please welcome WD Stevens.
Hello.
WD, welcome to the couch.
Thank you, Christine. It's lovely to be here. In front of the camera. I'm more often than not, I'm actually behind the camera these days.
Yes.
So it's nice to have a little bit of the spotlight.
Yes, of course. Well, we all like some attention.
Yes.
The actor in you likes being in front of the camera.
Yeah.
So you do all these different amazing jobs. Which one is closest to your heart?
Oh, that's a hard one. I think writer and now director. I think because it's what I sort of. It's not where I started actually. I remember being 8, 9, 10. You know, that sort of age, and being I want to be an actor. I'm going to be an actor. Lovely. And it was then a couple of years later that I started writing stuff. I mean, really bad stuff. Yeah. But then I sort of found the love of making stories.
Making the story as well.
Yeah.
And putting yourself in the story.
Yeah, I used to that. I don't do that so much anymore, except when I'm doing audio stuff, I often play the bit parts and things. But if it's my story or if my film or whatever, I tend not to act in it because I find it hard to see the bigger picture when I'm actually a part of it.
Yes, that makes sense. Yes, yeah. When you're one cog in the whole wheel, you have to have the big view as the writer or as the director.
Yeah. But directing, I like to just sort of take the back seat. I remember when I was in rehearsals for Why Her, watching them do it. I was standing up, sort of on the leaning. I was actually rather like this, a sort of mantelpiece, and I had my little notebook. I was going to bring it today, but I forgot. And they're doing all their things, and I'm going, okay, and then little note, write that down. And as I learnt when I was at school from doing the school plays that we did every year, how to that you'd once you got to that point where you were doing full runs, especially, you would sit back, let your actors take it, and just write little notes down. That very hurriedly, and so when you got to the end of the thing, it's like, okay, actors, sit down, and we'll go through from the top, and you get notes like, D change foot left, and you sit there looking at it and going, just hang on, I'll work out what I meant.
I know this.
Yeah, and it's that notes is actually one of my favourite parts of rehearsals because of that. Everyone has a wonderful time just laughing about what you're trying to get across. What you might have meant. Yeah.
Yes, but also there are things you pick up that you wouldn't have picked up on stage.
No, of course not. Yeah, it's, I think the rehearsal process is what I love about theatre. You don't get it so much with film, particularly these days. Everything's so fast that you might have a little bit of rehearsal if you've got a long lead-up time, particularly if you've got a bit of a budget.
Yes, it depends on the budget.
But I know. So you might have a bit of rehearsal time, but most of the time on a film, your actors will have learnt their lines off-site. Then you get in there and you do all your direction and rehearsal right then and there. Like I have a bit of a process, not so much when I'm doing my own things, but if I'm cameraman, cinematographer on someone else's thing, I will often show up at the location, put the camera where I think it kind of should go, and then I say to the director, right, show me the scene, and so they'll play me out the scene, and I'll go, right, okay, I want a shot from there and there and there and there and there and there, however many is necessary for the thing. And so I just work out how to map the lighting and everything from that perspective, seeing the scene being
And
rehearsed.
You make their job very easy.
Well,
you do half their job for them, really.
A little bit. Well, I mean, I wouldn't presume to take any power away from the director because it's...
No, but that's a very supportive DOP.
Yeah. Well, I like to... I really like the separation of the two, which I don't get when I'm doing my own projects. Often I am cinematographer and director at the same time.
Yeah.
Generally, I like the director works with the performers, gets that thing, and then the director of photography, the cinematographer or whatever, works on the shots and things.
Yes.
It's but I do, the two do go hand in hand
Absolutely.
on my things, but if I had a bigger budget or I had a larger pool of people, then
you might delegate a little bit more.
Well, it's what I love working. I've got this this sound guy that I work with all the time, Mark Robert Walters, and he's really good at getting sound. So that's just one thing I don't have to think about. So I focus on the actors and the lighting and the shots, and he knows exactly what he has to do with sound.
And that's just, you know, you can't do everything.
No, it
so
really
it is
takes
good.
the pressure
It is
off.
good to be able to hand something over to people you know you trust.
Yeah, and so that's what I like about theatre, that there's that specific separation of time. Like we had, well, I'll get into that a little later, but we had, you know, a lead-up time of rehearsals where we'd sit down, we'd nut out each scene, and so we worked the whole thing out, and then it was staged.
Yes.
So less faffing about just trying to get everything done really quickly, and which it is on film. So that's one of the things I really love about theatre.
We want to talk about Why Her.
Yes.
Is this your first play?
Actually, yeah. Well, I mean, unless we count the little things that I did when I was in primary school. But what sort of happened with it is I know a number of people like Rob Lloyd, for instance, who does a lot of independent theatre, like at the Melbourne Fringe and all that, which is what this was produced for, and I did a lot of work at my local community theatre, Williamstown Little Theatre, and so I'd worked there for a couple of years, and I thought, oh, God, I would love to write a play. This is great, and sort of, a bit jealous of Rob and all those other people who I know in that circuit. Just like, oh, they're doing a show every year. I want to do a show. So January last year came around, and I'm like, right, I'm going to do a show. What the hell's it going to be about? And I went through about 3 or 4 different ideas about 2 weeks before close of applications came.
Whoa.
And I thought, oh, it'd be good. Because we haven't actually said what the damn play is about yet.
Yes.
But, and I thought, what about a gay person who becomes infatuated with a woman? Because, the story of, the straight person having their gay experience is a story that's, done to death, particularly in
And
sitcoms.
struggling with it and making the move to come out.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is so fascinating because it's the inversion.
Yeah, and that was what really got me. So I basically sat down. I was actually working on another idea at the time, and I thought, okay, well, I'll finish that one. It was a nice idea. It was set in a fish and chip shop of all places. And so I decided, okay, I'll finish that one, and then I'll go into this one. I wasn't so happy with that one because it was before, leading up to the end. It was a bit of a struggle to get it all tied off. So I started writing this one, and it just came.
Oh, right.
It just flowed. Everything was.
So when
was
things
right there.
do flow, you
You
do
know
get
you're
the
onto
sense
it,
as a
yeah.
writer that this is what it's meant to be, don't you?
Exactly, yeah. And it was great fun. So I had the first draft of it done in a week.
Wow.
And I knew I had a lot more editing to do. I mean, writing is not writing. Writing is editing.
Yes. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yes. And I read, right, okay, I've got to decide now because it costs a lot of money. Like the festival fees up front are about $400, and that's before you get into venue hire and all that, before you start to see a profit.
Yes.
I had a little bit saved up from a part-time job I had when I was in high school that my mother always made me put away half of my earnings, which really helped fund this.
So now you were right. You were right, WD Stevens' mother.
Yeah,
Well, you're never going to tell her.
That.
You're never going to tell her, but I'm telling her.
Yeah. So I basically had a week to make the decision: do I jump in and do it? And so I went, yep, all right, I'm going to do it. So I grabbed my cousin Alison, who was down from Traralgon that weekend. We went down to Cherry Lake, took the poster photograph, and had all the publicity stuff done in a couple of days, and stuck it all out there, and went, yeah, there you go. I'm doing a play.
And that's how it's done, folks. And we'll be back right after this break. Welcome back to Creatives on the Couch, where I'm speaking with WD Stevens about his fabulous play, Why Her? And so, let's get into the nuts and bolts of the play. Mm-hmm. Tell us what your central message and theme of the play is.
I wanted to go a bit deeper than just, you know, boy meets
It's
girl, girl
girl,
falls in love.
boy
Blah,
lose,
blah.
boy loses girl, boy gets girl back.
Yes, that's that sort of thing. So I put in this whole thing about, you know, what it means to be, you know, what it means to have that a kind of identity, and because this is a real thing. I mean, when I was really shocked when I put out the casting call that so many of them said, you know, this is something that has actually happened. I had one of them tell me about a friend of theirs who decided not to follow his heart and go with it just because he felt that he'd made a commitment to being gay.
And probably in some ways fought a bit for that stand for being gay.
Yeah.
He might have, you know, not just made the commitment, but had to struggle, you know, to fight for it a little bit, and then would have felt a bit sheepish then following his heart with the...
Yeah. Well, it's because that is exactly what Chris, the central character in this, is doing. Because I didn't set out to write a monologue. 'Cause, you know, most plays, you know, a lot of plays will have big monologues, but I did put a little bit one right in the middle where he tells Emily, the girl he falls in love with, about how when he was 14, 15 years old, he was realizing that he was gay. And when he told everyone, it was like, oh, you're too young to know. It's just a phase. You'll grow out of it. And he started going out with girls at that point because he was like, you know, he's young. He was like, don't struggle with it. And you know, given his age, that would have been probably in the mid to late 90s.
Yeah,
which was nowhere near as much
as relaxed about these things as we are today. Yes.
Yeah. So he was understandably a bit more committed to that. And so once he made the decision later on, 18, 19 years old sort of thing, he found, yeah, this is who I am. And that's when people started accepting it. So he didn't want to go back to the whole kind of thing. It was like, hey, he struggles with telling people about this once they do actually get together. Spoiler alert, sorry. But they... He's frightened particularly of telling his parents because, you know, while they were supportive later on, they were one of the ones saying that in the beginning.
Yeah, and also he doesn't want to confuse them and commit himself to a path that...
Yeah, he doesn't want to go down the path of, oh, so you're straight now. Okay, good, right, fine.
Well,
Like, no, that's not what it is.
The problem is the labelling, really.
Yeah.
The problem is that our parents or whoever want to label us.
Yeah, and he actually has a line where he actually says, I'm realising now that how pointless putting all these labels on ourselves are, because, you know, there's so much leeway, and a name can really commit you to that kind of thing. Labels can work for people, you know. I think at the start when people are trying to find out who they are, they like to look for definitions that go, yeah, that helps explain who I am. But
Yes.
It's not a thing to get bogged down in and affix yourself too rigidly.
Exactly so, because if you square yourself in, I mean, your heart knows none of these labels.
Yes, exactly.
And you might just fall in love with well, like Portia de Rossi is an example. She said, I didn't really fall in love with a woman or a man. I just fell in love with Ellen. It was who Ellen was. It wasn't because she was a woman. And a lot of people say that. It's the person.
I know, that's how I am. Yeah.
Well, if it's the person, it's the person, and perhaps our parents and society can just adjust to that. It is interesting that you raise all that.
Yeah, well, I think it's very prevalent at the minute, and I think what I wanted to do. I mean, I'm an entertainment writer. I know that's what I am. I don't. There's a word that is thrown about a lot these days, particularly in terms of contemporary theatre, and it's confrontational. And I'm not a fan of that kind of theatre. I mean, and it has its niche market, but I think particularly plays that have a social message, if they go out of their way to alienate their audience, then your message kind of gets lost, which is what I'm doing here is, I didn't set out to have an agenda or anything. I set out to tell the story of Chris and Emily with their friend Dan. It seems like he's tacked on there as the sounding board, but he's very integral to the story.
Yes.
So I take a look at this strong social issue, but, you know, in a light way. That's
in a playful way.
Yeah.
Well, I think even if you have a message, it's best not to be in someone's face, because
Exactly, yeah.
anyone who's dealt with teenagers knows that, you know, just putting the message there is not the most effective way of delivering it. The most effective way of delivering it is to entertain.
Exactly, that's what I feel, and I always think, you know, people ranting at you is
No,
not a good. I would
it's
like
a turn off.
I like to be talked to, not talked at, which is what
yeah.
I intend to try and do.
Yes, and so the light-heartedness of the play really adds to the poignancy.
I like to think so. So yeah, I was really happy with how it turned out. I mean, I do want to mention that I had help from a wonderful script editor. Her name was Celia Hanscom. And what we did was we went through the whole script line by line after I'd written it. And it was always heartbreaking to have a little red pen just going, fit. It's like, oh no, I really like that line. It's like, yeah, but it's, yeah. And I think I became a better writer for it, because there were some bits that were just a bit laboured and things, which also good to have a female perspective on it, because, you know, I'm a man and I think, you know, I think I've got a good handle on things, but you can't know everything.
That's the thing. I think as a writer, we always think our last draft, gee, that was good. I won't have to touch it again. But you go back and reread it in 2 months, and you'll see quite a bit of change. But I've been an editor myself.
Yes.
In television, not in theatre, and I've been on both sides of it. And I hate seeing the red pen go through my work. I absolutely hate it. But sometimes when I go, not always, sometimes I do disagree, but sometimes when I go away, I do think, well, thank God, you know.
I agreed with practically everything that Celia said.
Well, then you're a good match.
Yeah, I'm also not that precious about my dialogue or you know, or any part of it. If, you know, I like to sit down with actors and they'll go, I'm not fantastic on this, how about we try it this way? And most of the time it is better just getting that other perspective.
So we have here a writer who is not too precious, a lesson to us all, because I can be. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back to Creatives on the Couch, and I'm speaking with WD Stevens about the path to production of his play, Why Her? WD, I want to know if the path to production of a play is as difficult and terrifying as the path to, say, filming or television.
It was long, for starters. Like I said, I came up with the idea, what would it have been, April, May, and the play went on September, so almost a year ago now. And so it took, you know, 6-7 months of steady production, and so I hit a real snag about 5 weeks out, where I had my whole cast, all 3 people, pull out on me. I know, it was really heartbreaking. It was a sort of domino effect. My lead guy, my Chris, I don't know the full reasoning, but he went, and then the next guy who had joined basically to do a play with the person playing Chris went, and the one I didn't hear from was the girl, actually, because I sort of cast the Chris and Emily as you know, a package deal, because you know, they had really great chemistry together, and so one without the other. So I was faced with this thing, right, I haven't got a cast anymore.
Oh my, that's when you, as a writer and director, you have a genuine breakdown.
Well, yeah, I remember the night it happened, just walking out onto the balcony. It was about midnight and it was cold outside, and I was just leaning over looking at the Westgate Bridge going, oh my God, I have sunk about $1,000 into this production already. I don't want to give it up. And if I leave it any longer to make the decision about whether I'm going to recast, you know, people will have started booking tickets because they went on sale, I think, at the start of August or middle of August.
Oh my God, yeah.
So we'll go, right, no sense in hanging around, put a new ad up, and so I auditioned people and cast within the week.
So
got
it was,
into...
you really didn't throw much of a hissy fit, as I would have.
Well, wasn't.
There was no time for the
exactly,
hissy
there was no
fit.
time or mental capacity to get angry. I mean, if it had been any earlier, I probably would have just gone, you...
Yeah, you would have had time for retribution and revenge.
Yeah, and the thing is, I didn't do any pleading either. Please stay, please stay. Oh my
No,
God, I can't do it.
no.
It was not
There was
worth
no
it.
time, no.
Yeah.
And also you don't want reluctant actors, you want enthusiastic
No, exactly.
actors. Yeah.
And so I ended up with 3 wonderful actors, Dominic Weintraub, Irina Yamada, and James Singleton. And they were all really committed, like, right from the off.
Right.
And I explained to them the situation that I've been rehearsing for about a month and a half with these guys.
And now you're going to get 5 weeks.
Yeah, so that was fun. And I don't know how they did it, but 3 actors learned a 70-minute play. Well, actually, not even in those 4 weeks, because I made them go books down about 2.5 weeks in.
Oh.
Particularly Dom, who played Chris, he had a lot to. I remember writing it, and I got to the end of scene 7, thinking, "Ooh, Chris has been on stage the whole time."
And he's got a...
Yeah, so I'll do scene 8. I'll find a reason to have Dan and Emily together,
give him a break.
just so he can have a break.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
And it was. I really couldn't have been more proud of them.
Really?
They did such an exceptional job, and I mean, naturally, it got better throughout the week.
Yes.
Because when we had 3 rehearsals a week, Mondays, Thursdays, and Sundays, and actually it was quite fun. We had our rehearsal on, I think it was Monday the 21st of September, which is my birthday.
A good sign.
Yeah, and the night before was Irina's birthday, the 20th of September. And so my mum I got her to make a cake for us because she's a baker as well. And so she actually, whenever I'm on film crews and things, I get her on for catering. Because particularly when you're not paying actors, it's nice to give them a nice
something good and something homemade.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we all eat so much rubbish on set.
I know. Pizza.
Not to give away any secrets, but yeah.
Yeah. So it was that was lovely. There was a real sense of camaraderie between us, and because of course they were also having to do all the scene changes as well, because I'm up the back doing the sound and lighting and everything.
Wow.
So I've got hands on the things and and like an octopus, so I can't be, and I couldn't find anyone to be a stage manager, and I thought it's best if they can all do it that way, they can, you've got 3 hands on deck. Because the staging of it, and I'm really quite proud of this, we did it at the Alan Catt Theatre, which is in Richmond, and it's got this sort of marble floor and then bricks all around. So it looks already like a sort of dingy student apartment.
Yes.
And I
So
grabbed
there was not much.
Yeah,
not much to do there.
So I grabbed a trestle table, stuck it up on the thing, and that became the kitchen bench. But the couch, the whole idea here is we have the bench where Chris and Emily are sitting. So what I did was I hired a park bench from a prop store that's near us. And so for the scenes that took place outside, it was bare, but all the scenes inside had different blankets or throws and things.
Over the same piece
with
of...
little just little additions that made you go, oh, this is Dan's apartment, this is Chris's apartment, this is Emily's apartment, this is Janet's apartment. It's actually fun
seeing what you can do with the absolute minimum props, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I just went into a cupboard and went, okay, this is yellow with weird stripes. That'll be Janet's.
How thrilling is that, to get that live reaction?
It is.
Is there nothing like it?
No, it's gorgeous, and I'm the audience is laughing at these funny lines that I didn't even think were funny.
Yeah, sometimes the actors add something to the delivery.
Yeah, exactly, and but it's funny. Lines that I'd written as jokes didn't get as big of a laugh as the. So I've learned, don't try to be funny, just be funny. Yeah. Yeah.
And thank you so much, WD, for talking to us
for
on the
having me.
couch. It's just been a pleasure. We look forward to seeing Why Her. Thank you very much. That was Creatives on the Couch, and we'll see you next time.